So there's something I talked about how we are the evidence of life after death. So that was the talk, that we are born out of a loss, a fundamental death that brings us into life. And we are marked by this death, by this loss. And I talked about the God of prohibition, that we can think of some societies in which we realize that we're all castrated. There's something we've all lost. That's part of civilization, the incest taboo, that we have to live with that loss, and all of us are marked by it. And then we have this idea of a potential exception to that rule. And maybe God is that exception. Oh, thank you so much. There you go. Very good. God is the exception to the rule, the one who is whole and complete. And maybe when we get to heaven, it'll all be great. But right now, we're pretty much all in the same boat. And that God had its day. But that is not the God that I think is predominant today. Today, we have the God who demands enjoyment, right? This is the Mecca of Los Angeles. The God who says, enjoy. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. You don't have to be castrated. You're surrounded by people who aren't castrated, who have the thing. If you consume in a certain way, do certain things, you can have this wholeness, this oceanic oneness, this promise that we can often feel very anxious about, because the more we try to get it, the more we feel we're missing it. Every time we grasp the thing that we think is going to work, maybe it makes us feel good for a little bit. Like the Johnny Depp trial. I mean, I've been watching the Depp-Amber trial, I have to admit. Quite fascinated by it, embarrassed to say, but very interesting. Did you see, by the way, the recent one? Did you see the guy, the one with all the facial expressions? He looks a little bit mad. Who's yeah? What's his name?
He's a medical professional. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's testifying for her.
I know. Yeah, she hasn't had the best. People working for. Yeah, you know, the psychologist. One of them was brilliant. Fucking Johnny Depp's one was fantastic. Oh my God, she was good. I'm not even into the kind of like DSM stuff, and she was very good. Anyway, beside the point. But you know, there's Depp, who has everything he wants, and he's just snorting so much coke. He's taking so much MDMA, and you kind of go, if one person has it all, like, you know, he's got a lot, and yet he's taking bags of the stuff, you know. So if there's ever evidence that getting everything doesn't really work, and that you have to then push and push and push, you know, there's that evidence. So there's the God that demands enjoyment. And the problem is, of course, then we get more and more anxious, and then, you know, you scratch a hippie, you get a fascist, right? You have all of this enjoyment, and you have all of this, it's wonderful, in this community, and then it's so anxiety producing that often people then go for a nostalgic fascist desire to be castrated, to have some sort of rule. And I think I mentioned, you know, all of the acid heads in, was it the 60s in the west coast of America, all became Jesus freaks, right? This experience of like just throwing off the shackles, experiencing this, ended up with new kind of prohibitions, this attempt to somehow get rid of this demand to enjoy. And so, you know, what's the answer? And, you know, this is like, I always like an answer. I'm an evangelist, you know that, so I want easy answers to things. And I think, if anything, especially Jameson, I've said, like, no, I remember you told me, there's no easy answers. This is tough. This is years of work. I want easy answers. But it's, of course, the communion of contradiction. That the idea is not that we have a God of prohibition, that there's an exception, right? We're all castrated. We all have a lack. And, well, God's not lacking, you know. Or the God of the demand to enjoy, which is the God of today. That's the God of today, right? The God of the demand to enjoy. But rather, the God who is also castrated. The crucified Christ. The God who is not at one with itself. That not only are we not complete and whole, but there's something about reality itself that is incomplete. And that's actually beautiful. So the answer to the riddle at the start is you give the rabbit a cigarette.